All right, it's 11:02. Let's get started. As the screen says, I'm Paul Krofssik with Digital Watchdog. I'm director of training for them. So I do a lot of training stuff and things and get the guys on the road to also do trainings. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. And thank you for taking your time out this morning to come in and talk about the Digital Watchdog SiteWatch, a new product. So we'll just, here we go. So we're going to talk about the DW SP15 speaker. Going to go over a little bit of information about it, the basic specs, hardware interface, spectrum and audio, the CX and the SP15, the speaker and Linux, any special features, and then a summary of what we went over and a Q&A. So without further ado, so this is a IP speaker. Okay, that's why you're here, to learn about it. It's fully integrated with DW Spectrum, IP VMS, and the Blackjack AI. It is compatible with other voice over IP devices. So if you have an IP phone system, you can use this on it. You can put messages into it, okay, to create live responses, alarms, even background music. You can schedule announcements. It has an HTTP API for some third-party integration, built-in web server. It's UMVIF conformant, PoE class 3, so it'll draw a max of 15 watts. Wall mount bracket included, and it's designed to be outside, and it has a 2-year warranty on it. Sort of a SiteWatch is, things about SiteWatch is it's designed for the exterior of a building. It's designed with our other SiteWatch devices, which we'll talk a little bit about, to add a level of safety, alert, to deter people from doing things or to announce people if they need to do something. Keep going here. So here are some of the specs. The audio has all the different necessary codecs. If you don't know what a codec is a mashup of the words code and decode, and it's a computer program that compresses files, or it can convert between analog and digital sound. And you may see the words used when talking about audio codecs and video codecs. And codecs can also mean a measure of performance of how good the sound is. So a 16 kilohertz one is going to sound better than an 8 kilohertz one. Okay, so those type of things. So we have a couple questions already, and I will answer them shortly, guys. So there, and it's doesn't weigh a lot, has the mounting screws, all that good stuff in there. So it's a 15-watt speaker, so it's actually quite loud even outdoors. 113 decibels. Network interface is 10100. We support all kinds of network protocols: SIP, ONVIF, HTTP, HTTPS, RTP. We have all the TPs in there, to say the least. It has password protection. It has, you can, create different users for it. And it has a firewall, which we'll talk a little bit about and how to do that. And of course, voice over IP using the SIP protocol. It supports all that stuff, and we'll show a little bit about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Blackjack CX. And the reason why I chose the CX is it's got that built-in PoE switch on it, so you can power the speaker from it directly from the server. It also has our spectrum in it. So it has that integrated solution, so you don't have a server and then a switch, and then, you go out to your speakers. So this is also our latest product. And this has a DHCP server, so it makes the setup much simple, because when you plug the camera in, it's set for DHCP from the factory, and it will automatically get an IP address from your system. Of course, you can manually add one in. So one more thing, all of our products, I don't think we have any more in our line that are not NDAA, TAA compliant. So these things can be used on government projects, GSA, stuff like that, where they're doing that. So this is part of our SiteWatch line, which includes motion detection, laser perimeter protection, IR and white light illumination, and now the IP speaker. And, these things can be used in conjunction with each other. So you can have an alert created that turns on a light and creates an announcement. So let's look at how the camera plays inside of a Spectrum. So Spectrum, and it might be a little hard to see because this is a full screen recording, will auto detect the speaker. Okay. And there also is another way to have Spectrum grab this, which I'll show you later. And then it'll auto detect the speaker. It will find the speaker. It may ask you to put in a password. Most of the time it won't. We'll talk about the password later. And if you notice, there's a mic icon in the lower right-hand corner of this white box. All right. And you can go in there, and if you have a mic hooked up to your PC already, you can press that button and talk down already to the speaker with no problem. Now, the trouble is built-in mics in laptops and even some PCs, some monitors have mics built into them, is that they're terrible. But for between $10 to $30, you can get a decent USB mic to make the talk down better, the voice better. It'll appear louder. It'll appear more, natural coming through it rather than some inexpensive, couple dollar mic. Got another question coming in. We'll talk about the DW app in a few. So I'm keeping an eye out on all the questions popping up. Thank you. So type them in. So let's just kind of zoom in on it. And as you can see, Spectrum auto detects a device. The key is it's got to be like on the same subnet and routable. So it's got to be able to findable, or I always say pingable. If you can ping it, Spectrum should just auto detect it. The default IP that the system comes with is 192.168.5.200. The default username and password is admin, but you must change this password to something stronger. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Just change the password to something stronger when you do it. When it's all set up, you'll notice that the cameras you've initiated audio on, and if you have a microphone, you can talk down and say, hey, what are you doing on my lawn? Or, hey, guy with the bike, what's going on? Or, press that to do and do your talk down. Okay. We'll just let this finish play out. There you go. So you can have the device supported on more than one camera. So you could have a couple cameras pointed at the same area and one speaker there. But also if you have a camera with a microphone built in or a microphone device, it'll work fine. So the other thing is there's no need for a license in order to use the speakers. Like all our other accessories, our illuminators, motion detectors, or laser detectors, they'll all function without a license. They don't need a license. They're not recording any video. The only thing you really need a license for is to record video in Spectrum. So keep that in mind. You don't need to tell it to record, put a red dot near it because you're not recording anything. The audio will be joined in with the video depending on how you map it to a camera. So this is what it pops up, what it looks like. And again, you'll have that microphone icon. But now let's go into a little bit of the setup of the camera, because of its Spectrum integration, you can go right into the web page of the speaker right from Spectrum. I mean, you can go out if it's routable, you can go in and type the IP address, put in your username and password, and bring up the web page in your favorite web browser, whether it's Chrome, Edge, I don't know, Mozilla. I don't even think they make that anymore. I'm just kidding. So this is where you can go in and view all your different parameters. And we'll talk about all these basic SIP, audio, HTTP commands, the firewall, and so on. But here's your basic settings. Okay. So you can get your serial number, which tech support might need, get something going on. Free space is very important because if you start uploading audio files that are out of whack in size, you'll use up the free space and you won't get as many audio files into the camera if you need a lot. Is it detecting SIP on the system? And then whatever the setting is for its IP address, subnet mask, gateway, and if you have a secondary DNS and all that stuff in there. And again, so this is a zoom in on it so you guys can see it better because sometimes those little screens really, Put it down. So let's hit the basic menu. So basic menu is IP. So again, DHCP, this shows the last, I was messing around with it. So this was the last time someone had stuck a manual IP address in there. That sticks in there, but that's not the current IP address of the unit. I think it's, I forget what it is. It's on this system. It was 110.210. Oh, 10.110.210.107. But anyway, are you going to use HTTP and HTTPS? If you only choose one, you need to restart the camera. And then your port configurations, which are standard. You can use non-standard ports, but then you have to know what the non-standard ports are in whatever third-party device or web browser you're logging into. So for the most part, better to keep it on standard and keep these factory settings. So SIP, what is SIP? Because it's the next thing. It's shows a SIP account, and most of the time you're not going to use this, but someone might have an IP phone system, all right, and they want to use it to like make an announcement going like, hey, Paul, there's a call on line 7. Can you pick up the call? And it makes the announcement, and I can go to a phone, pick up line 7 or whatever the case may be. And so that's the type of thing you use. And SIP is the communications protocol used for signaling multimedia communications. So it's a lot of times it's used in voice and real-time communications over IP networks. We'll talk about another thing in a second. This is sort of like an IoT application, and it requires real-time communication. So you talk down, there's a mic nearby, and you're yelling at someone to get off the property, and they tell you to bugger off or whatever, and while you're waiting for the police to arrive. And then you can decide what SIP protocol you want in there, UDP, TCP, TLS, and TLS depends on if you have authentication with the SIP protocol or not. So again, this is something you're not going to use a lot, might be maybe one in 100, but it's good to know it's there, and then you'll need the help from their phone guy or whatever in order to find out all the other information you need. So the next setting is codec. So we're just going right down the right-hand side here. Okay. And these are your audio settings, and we're just going to zoom in on this. And so I would leave all the codecs checked. You might run into a problem where the person either sounds distorted, or they're too loud, or they're too soft. And you might have to look at where your signal's coming from and then decide what codec to uncheck. But I would just leave them all checked because it shouldn't matter. Then you go to your volume control, and that's as simple as volume. It'll make the speaker louder. Amp auto off is if it's going to sit idle for a long time, you can do like the auto off, but then it might cut off the first word as it comes into does it. An important one is jitter buffer. I know it sounds like a dance from the 1920s, but what jitter buffer is used for is if you're a bandwidth problem, okay? Jitter is an audible sign of network anomaly. So the person's voice will be broken up, or they'll sound robotic or whatever. And what happens is a voice conversation is broken up into packets, okay? And they're transferred over the network. They're transferred over the network. God, can't speak today. Each of the packets is numbered to show its place in the conversation sequence. So this way it can be reassembled at the other end and in the correct order. So you have this buffer in there, so this way it can reassemble them before it starts going out through the thing. So keeps the audio cleaner and everything. And then down here, you've got your noise reduction and your noise reduction level. That helps with pops and spurious noises. I think this is the factory setting 5. It's fine to leave it there. I did not find any change using HPF, so I would say leave it on. It's probably some type of thing to avoid pops and stuff like that. So the next section is the actual sounds that the speaker can make, okay? We've got the built-in sounds, and then you've got 10 sounds. You can do custom sounds. You can record a voice. You can have different audio alerts and stuff like that. And one of the things to keep in mind when messing with it is this over here, this little play button over here will play through the audio of the PC or the web browser you're in. Okay, so if you're in Safari, you're on a Mac, it'll play through the sound that's coming from the Mac. If you're on a PC, same thing. It'll play through Chrome or, whatever you're using for the PC. The little speaker, you would think it'd just be like, turn the sound on and off. It's not. It's designed to play through the speaker. So you can say, okay, I want to know what this sounds like through the speaker. Do I got to make the speaker louder? Right? You have it play and then you do it. So that's what those two controls are for the baked-in sounds. When we go to the user files, these are the custom files, you have the same thing, except now you have delete and you have upload. So again, you can do this from inside Spectrum. They've got a little sound file in there and they have these announcements. You can go in and then test them and listen to them through the sound card or the PC, and you can say, well, that doesn't really sound good. And you play it through the speaker. It sounds worse through the speaker. You can go in and either get them re-record or get a different file that has a different audio level. So again, these are just, something to keep in mind, because when I first opened it up, I tried to open them up without looking in the manual. And I was like, I hit this one and I heard the audio through here. I didn't play through the speaker, and then looked in the manual and said, that one plays through the speaker. I just thought maybe it just turned off the speaker. So just to keep that in mind, play that audio file through the speaker, play through whatever sound card or whatever is part of the web browser in there. So, and it also, again, gives you your amount free. So if you're putting up files that are too big for what they are, because maybe they're just beeps and bops and they're taking up a lot of room, you can probably lower their quality, okay, and their file size without lowering the quality. All right. So this might play through you guys. I don't know if you'll hear it. It might play very low because I tried to lower the audio. I didn't want anyone to get blasted out. I don't think you can hear it. It plays very faintly for me. Something about Zoom and recording and whatever. But you have the baked in audio files, and then of course, you can add in your user files. So now let's go to this. I think this is a great addition. I wish more products would do this, so you don't have to go hunt or find a document or whatever. Here's the HTTP commands that this speaker will respond to, meaning, forget Spectrum, any third-party device, so you could have it come from an access control system or something like that, as long as they support HTTP out commands, you can send it to play a file, okay? Start file, bell 1, which is the baked-in one, bell 2, bell 3, baked-in 1. Or you can have action, start file, user file 1, mode once, volume 10, which is all the way up, right? And then you can have it start, repeat. So it could say, hey, you guys are in the wrong area, please leave. You guys are in the wrong area, please leave, or whatever the announcement is. And then you can tell it to stop if another action is taken. So this could be used in conjunction with access control, alarm systems, and of course in Spectrum. It's just doing in Spectrum is actually a little easier the way we have our event thing set up. But I really think this is a great setup. Let's just zoom in on it a little bit so you can see the way the files work. Now, the only trick I found was when I highlighted it, and if I paste it into Spectrum, you tend to get an extra space here. So you got to go to the end of the H and just click back, and then just make sure your IP address is right in the system. And then you can go in and do this. So this would be for, like I said, any of these third-party things you need to send a command to the camera, it can send it to it pretty much no problem. All right, let's continue on. So in Spectrum, we have our own event services, okay? So you can have an event, an analytic event, okay, like a tailgating event. You can have it play a sound. So in this case, we got baked in one called Bicycle Bell, but then again, you can record your own sound in Wave and MP3, and I think a couple of other ones you can put in there, and you can add your own and manage all the sounds in Spectrum from here in this very easy menu. So you can have, motion detection trigger, alarm input trigger, a third-party device come in and trigger the speaker, because we handle generic events, and then we can send out generic events. We call them HTTP requests. So you can have an HTTP request in, an HTTP request out. So Spectrum is great for managing alarm and alerts in relation to the video. All right. So we'll continue on. We'll talk a little more about this a little later in our webinar here. So this is the schedule. So you can set a schedule alert or schedule announcement or whatever, and you have 10 schedules. So you can go in here, give the schedule a name, enable schedule, say, when do you want it to start? You open timetable and it'll go between, let's say 8 a.m. and 8:05 a.m. And it was just telling everyone to be safe, or, it's lunchtime, or, you can make a safety announcement once every half hour. There's a safety announcement, don't, wander into the, area where the forklifts are or whatever. So you can have it play a baked in file, or you can have it play, which are just beeps and boops and, alarms and stuff like that. So they're not very good, but you can also play any of your custom files. And you have 10 of these that'll play on the schedule. So you could have the schedule playing in the camera, and then Spectrum sending it sounds based on events like I said, motion detection, laser detector, or video analytics from like Blackjack AI. So let's continue on. And we have what's called RTP multicast. So what that means is this speaker can be part of a multicast network. And what multicasting is allows one server or one device to send sounds, or really packets, to a group of hosts that are in the same multicast group. So you could have, an announcement going to 5 different speakers throughout the things from being multicast. Okay. So again, makes some announcements easier, and setting it up is pretty easy, but it's more for third-party device integration. And RTP, of course, stands for real-time protocol. So it's designed to be real-time. So if the audio goes in, it comes out of the speaker, in the right order. You don't have too much jitter or packet loss or anything. So next is firewall. So built into the system is its own firewall. So you can create defense rules and firewall rules in the system. And I'll show you how to create a firewall rule in a moment. And so here you enable the rule, you give it a name. And basically what you use this for is you can say, I only want this IP, or maybe these 2 IPs, to connect to this system and nothing else. Because I could see having speakers around on your network and having some rogue employee or someone log in and put all kinds of crazy things blurting out of your speaker, causing, feedback or annoying noises that can be just disruptive. And then every other IP address that tries to connect, it just rejects it. So you can actually lock these down, very well. And then sort of the final screen is the system screen, which is like reboot the device, reset it back to factory. If we do a firmware update, there's a firmware update, current username, password, all that stuff. And I did want to mention one thing. Under audio, you'll see a menu that says mic, okay? And that's actually for a newer version of this device, which will have a microphone built into it. Will probably be released in late fall. Could be earlier, but probably late fall. We'll have a speaker with a mic in it, so it can do 2-way audio. And this way, you don't need a camera with a mic or another third-party mic to do 2-way audio. So just keep that in mind. You'll see it, be in the audio section. You'll be like, hey, where's the mic? What does it do? It's not in this one. It's just, one of those things that gets laid in the menus that I think they have trouble taking out. So I showed you how it detects when auto detect is turned on, but let's say for whatever reason you have auto detect turned off. And I did choose the CX because the CX is Linux, and people always worried, oh, Linux is so hard to work with and this and that. So, showing you it works the same. Linux works the same as Windows. I just have auto discovery turned off. So I need to know the username and password and the IP address of the device. Search, it'll find it. Click there and add all devices, and it's added the device into your Spectrum setup. See, so it's there adding, and it'll find it and it'll appear as there. Again, don't need a license. It'll just work from there. You can drag over the camera, click if you have a microphone hooked up. Now, and if you have, again, audio in the client, it'll do it in the client. So even if you don't have audio, configured on the server, no mic plugged in, it'll still work if you have your remote client. So it just needs the client to have the audio capabilities to do it. So that's how it's found in the CX. All right. And then you can also map audio between cameras. So again, on the CX, we're going to go there. We're going to enable two-way audio. We're going to select our device because that's going to be our output device. And then we can hit over here or go over to the audio device on the other one. This is just repeating. So you can see you can just map the audio to it. All right. Also, on the DX, you can go in, and when you've created, I actually got to pause this because this one recorded fast, is I've created a soft trigger for this camera to play a sound to the speaker. All right. I've got to have available users, and then I play two users. Okay. All those have to be selected. And then you choose your sound, either like I said, the baked in sounds or, a new sound. Okay. And once that's all set, now I'll let this play. And I can change from play sound to repeat a sound. Then I choose the sound. So it'll just sit there and repeat the sound. Got to change, add my users again, click apply, click test, and it'll play the audio through the speaker. Okay. And see, every time I press that button, it's playing the audio. And now I can go in and look at see, went too fast on that one. Look at the log, and I can say, okay, check my date. I want to look at all my soft trigger events and any action, and it'll show soft trigger, repeat sound, the times I triggered it. So you can actually check in the log that the sound is working. So if the sound's not coming out of the speaker, you might have another problem. But you can see in the log that's actually sending it to it and setting it up. So using the event engine in Spectrum, you can just integrate it directly to the speaker. So one thing about Linux, things in Linux look different, okay? But they're actually very similar to what you're used to in like Windows, okay? And one of the examples is network setup. And I just wanted to show you this real quick. You go to settings, networks at the top, okay? And you can configure all three of the interfaces here, okay? So you can, right now that one's unplugged, but you can, put in a fixed IP, right? Manual IP, or set it for DHCP. This is actually your WAN setup, okay? It's set for DHCP, okay? And you go in and set your IP address, subnet mask, gateway, all that stuff. Now, if we go into and look at this, when we plug in a cable, we're going to plug in a cable for the WAN, right? We're going to plug it in, and it'll just automatically show connected, and it's connected at gigabit connection, okay? So it's different. It's, the controls located up here. It is like, I think the first thing on the menu, you go to network, and if you have a Bluetooth and, you want to change the appearance and all that stuff. So, our CX has been very popular. I know a few people are a little nervous about Linux. We released our DX product, and you have a Linux version and a Windows versions of those products. And there's no need to be afraid of them. The setup on them is simple. We have the IP finder on board. They'll work the same. And Linux has a lot of benefits over Windows, including less hacking capabilities. There are some places that are like, we don't want any Windows machines on our network, or whatever the case may be. And, we have an option of almost, I think everything has a Linux version. But I want you to look out for a webinar for Linux and DW Spectrum, probably do that sometime in July. So keep an eye out for that. And so let's talk a little bit about webinars and training, because we're doing some stuff with that. So June 22nd, we're going to have a training, G4 NVR and V-Series camera. And because someone asked about VMAX, I will make the speaker part of that. So Roger, come back for that. The speaker will work with the VMAX. I'm going to show you how it works, okay, with it, because, can plug into it. Now, we're also having our in-person certification training. So this is Spectrum in-person certificate training, Pleasanton, California on 8/2. And then Columbia, Maryland, July 27, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, 8/16. There'll be more added to the website very shortly. I think we're going to try to do 15 or 20 trainings this year up through November. So one of the things you can do is keep an eye on our website for upcoming webinars, online learning, our videos, and we should be adding another, what do you call it, rectangle or whatever that says, so you can register for the in-person trainings, which takes you to Eventbrite. We're using Eventbrite to do it. So now let's go to our Q&A, and I'm going to ask